Here we are. Thank you, Marissa, so much. And yes, welcome everyone to Don't Believe Everything You Read. And today we're going to look at those critical information literacy skills that we can use in the ABE classroom. And it was interesting. I did a similar presentation to this about 5 years ago, and it was important then. And in today's world, it is definitely more important than ever. Let me introduce myself. I'm John Trerotola, and currently I am in the nation's capital. I moved to Washington, D.C. a couple of years ago and am teaching in a county adult education setting here, teaching still GED and in language arts and social studies. But formally, my connection to Minnesota is that I was for about 10, 11 years or so, adult education teacher in Robbinsdale. And always good to be back, so to speak, and see some familiar names and faces. I'm also the curator of the Atlas Online Social Studies Library. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but many of the resources that we're going to see today are on that library. And then also there will be, you will have the slides, these slides, and any resources that I talk about today on a resource list available to you for sure. So please, please at any time, questions are very welcome, and shared experiences as well. Hopefully we'll have a little time at the end to share our experiences with this topic and or any strategies, resources, and we definitely learn best from each other for sure. So, information literacy. What better way to start is with just a quick quiz. And I like our quote there. I'll be throwing up a few quotes from time to time that relate to this topic. And we'll get, of course, more into the definition of information literacy in just a minute. But as we know, today, it is becoming harder and harder to identify the real news from the fake. So just take a minute. I won't spend too much time with this, but there are four options to the right. Which one is real? Which one is real? So chat your answer out if you wish. I'll give it a few seconds here. Um, which one of those is the real story? Number one, two. Looks like number one is so far winning out. Yeah. Laugh out loud on number three. You never know, though. Mr. Rogers, sometimes those type of things happen. All right. Well, you're still voting. Yes, we'll kind of take it from the three fake news headlines first. Yeah, Bill Gates. Yeah, don't expect any money anytime soon from Bill Gates. If you share something on Facebook, that one is definitely not real. Yeah, Mr. Rogers. No, Mr. Rogers is Mr. Rogers. Yeah, he was not involved as a sniper during the Vietnam War. But that leaves one and two, and I know one is North Dakota, close to us. Sounds plausible, but actually it's not. That is not the real headline. The real headline is number two. That NASA, and of course you can find these on the internet, real fake news headlines, and this one I did look up, and it is actually true that NASA is developing some type of internet. It's not like the internet like we know today here on Earth, but it is some kind of internet type of technology that in the future might be there for trips to Mars or space stations or that type of thing. So we can all learn a little bit, about that. Ooh, and it looks like yeah, we have a little additional information on that in the chat for sure. So point being, of course, is that it is just becoming harder and harder to identify those real news stories from those that are untrue. So So much to do today, so little time as always, but our goal today is to define information literacy and why it's critical for our students, for us as well. Going to identify some of those challenges as well that our students have mass consumers of all types of information. Then we'll spend the majority of our time today assessing a variety of instructional strategies and some adaptable standards aligned resources related to information literacy. There is a lot out there. As I say, I did this 5 years ago, and within those 5 years, understandably so, there are so many more resources out there for us and about this topic. And of course, we do need to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. And again, these will all be available to you at the end of the presentation. And then if we have time, we'll talk amongst ourselves in one way or another and talk about a plan, talk about other strategies, resources that are out there. And I have put together also a lesson plan that goes with this presentation that you will be able to use as you wish. It's totally adaptable and it's adaptable for all types of learning environments, whether it be online, hybrid, or in person. We hear this term fake news a lot, and there's so much more though than that. And this is why information and media literacy is so important. That idea of misinformation, AI again, deliberate misinformation, fact versus opinion. All of these areas make it so important, for our students to be more comfortable with what they are seeing and or hearing. And that term media literacy or information literacy, the terms are interchangeable. So sometimes you'll see information literacy, sometimes you'll see media literacy. It's a little different than digital literacy, which gets more into the computer applications, but information and media are basically the same. And there's kind of our formal definition on the screen, and it is that ability to access, analyze, evaluate, create, and act using all forms of communication. And it's just that term or that part of all forms is definitely important to remember as well. So there are simple tasks and more detailed resources that teachers, volunteers, whomever at all levels can use to promote these skills. And just as always in the back of our minds, it's so essential not for our students, but also for us as well. How we are getting our information is continuously changing is almost from almost from year to year, and now even kind of from month to month sometimes, on how we are getting our information or where we're getting our information from. So again, just take a minute and let's share with each other about where we primarily get our news from. So, lots of news on a daily basis in the real world. Where are we getting that from? There are some options there, ranging from kind of old school print, network nightly news to then, of course, the more more modern forms of communication and news gathering sources, streaming, websites, apps, social media. Yeah, looks like a very wide range. Websites, print. Good. Yes, I still get the hard copy newspaper. Podcasts, yeah, podcasts for sure. Yeah, that I should have added that one to it. Yeah, NPR, definitely. A little more specific types of places, websites I'm seeing. Good, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So this is something that you can do in your respective classrooms is polling your students about where they get their news from. And those results will definitely help guide your instruction, and have a feeling, their answers will be similar to ours. Perhaps maybe a little bit more skewed toward the social media side, depending on the age range in the classroom. But I have included today just a couple charts and graphs about news consumption, where we're getting our information from. And this is kind of an interesting one about the percentage of US adults who get their news from social media. And if you look down at the bottom there in that often category, kind of often in 2020, I'm like, why is that one high or just about as high as today? But that was during the pandemic, and it kind of makes sense. But yeah, take a look. Yeah, today about 25%, and then a majority kind of in that sometimes range of getting their news from social media. And again, this is definitely changing from year to year. And a couple other things too that when putting this together, there's lots of good articles out there about information literacy. And I read a report that one that found that more Americans who primarily rely on social media for news are more likely to be exposed to conspiracy theories and misinformation. So, if social media is one's only source, perhaps there is that tendency out there for there to be not just misinformation, but deliberate misinformation as well. Take a look at this chart as well. And this is why teaching those critical information literacy skills is so important. It's kind of interesting that individuals are getting information and news from social media, but basically most assume that it's inaccurate as well. That it's the why people are do not want to rely on social media, because that assumption is there that it is inaccurate. And you see some of the other categories, the bias in that, and the censorship type of thing. Those also play in, but it's that inaccuracy that is definitely the downside to getting news and information from one particular source. Let's talk a few minutes about information literacy and its connections with the standards. And, in the CCRS, the reading anchors definitely are emphasized: point of view, evaluating arguments, and information in various forms. And at those higher levels, that kind of D level, or at those lower levels, the idea of just finding reasons why someone wrote something or why someone is claiming something. Not to get too specific within the standards today, but Anchor 2 under the speaking and listening standards. It's written for information literacy. It's that standard of evaluating information presented in diverse media formats, reminding us, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, reminding us that news is not only presented in written formats, but it can be oral or through visuals. And as I say, definitely more on that later. I'm guilty from time to time of not recognizing those connections with ACEs and TIFF, but information literacy is necessary for students in learning those soft skills, using information to draw conclusions and make decisions. And finally, kind of the obvious connection, information literacy and North Star digital literacy do have that super strong connection. As part of the modules on information literacy, the goal of the standard is just this, assessing the reliability of sources and synthesizing that information from two or more sources. And yeah, there's so many more connections within that information literacy module on North Star for sure. I like this quote, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well. It really makes that information literacy, civics, and community connection. Being more critical consumers of media and information will have an impact on our students themselves, but on our students' families and their communities. And just want to take a minute. I'll read the quote in case it's small on your screen, and I just put a few sentence starters over to the right, and just like to share out with each other your thoughts on this one and thinking about our students, thinking about you as instructors, thinking about your program. Why is information literacy so critical to incorporate into our planning? When students can identify the quality of a source, how can they make good decisions about how to vote or form their own opinions on important topics like healthcare, housing, and economic policy? What do we think? What do we think? As I say, a few sentence starters. As I say, I'll just take a minute on your thoughts. Agree with this quote? Do you disagree with this quote? This quote resonates with you in some sort of way, or just any other thoughts on this quote and its ideas? Feel free to chat those out. Do you have a quality source? And are they able to identify that quality source? And with that, makes think, Melanie, yeah, that. How sometimes, yeah. So Melanie, the quote makes me think of, yeah, that confirmation bias. Yeah, seek out information inside, yeah, comfort zone. Very good. I like that. I like that idea. Very true. Yeah. Sometimes people rely on people in their circle to tell them what is true or not. Yeah, that I've read this, and surrounding ourselves with those that maybe agree and or disagree. Thank you for that. Good. Any other thoughts? Thank you. And hopefully today, yeah, that when we're finished, yeah, those tools, those strategies that we can pass along to our students will hopefully help them down. Nice, yeah. Source, certain decisions that are being made, yeah, then based on bad information or fake information or misinformation or opinions versus true fact. Excellent. Thank you all. Yeah, thank you. Wow. Yeah, excellent. Excellent thoughts. Yeah. And we're going to talk about that. What determines quality of a source and or how can we employ different strategies, us and our students, to make that determination? Good. Thank you. All right. I think, yeah, please keep, keep responding to that one, and I'll definitely review those later as well. But it does resonate so much with all of us with this very important topic. All right, so it is now time. Speaking of those strategies and those resources, we are going to review, discuss, assess, look at a couple in more depth. And one more quote here there's actually a National Association for Media Literacy Education that will be linked at the end. We can chat about that in a few more minutes. But this is from their website, reminding us that media literacy is interdisciplinary by nature. So when we kind of think about, and as many of you know, I am a social studies teacher and think about social studies a lot, but then also think about one of those outcomes of social studies and civics education, and that is to become a more informed citizenry. But the good news is that you don't have to be a social studies teacher to teach information literacy. or to help students navigate with this constant flow of data that is coming their way. As the quote says, it is interdisciplinary. And the resources that we are about to assess can definitely be used by all teachers and can be adapted to a variety of classrooms, from the ESL classroom at various levels to the GED one. And there are also ones too, in today's reality, ones that can be easily used in an in-person class, in an online format, or in a hybrid of both. And think about this as well at the end, that, sometimes resources, meaning computer access in your classroom, or subscriptions to a particular website, may not be accessible based on, your classroom, and or if you're maybe in a one-room schoolhouse situation. Just remember, sometimes we don't need the computer resources. We can use magazines and newspapers. They are still out there and achieve the same goals. Looking at articles, comparing two articles in two different newspapers on a similar topic, and assessing their credibility and looking for bias and so on. So that is an option as well. So when teaching information literacy, I personally take a three-step approach to planning and instruction. It doesn't have to happen exactly, one after another, or as just one big information literacy unit. It's just a way to think about incorporating various related lessons throughout the school year, and in conjunction with other content that I'm teaching. For example, if we're talking about the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment and the freedom of the press, and that is its own its own lesson and discussion. But after that, what better way than to talk about this topic as well, putting in some of the information literacy type of content as well. And as we go through that kind of big picture topics at the beginning, students, yeah, again, students, will probably know the term literacy, but when you put that word information or media in front of it, it may be new to them. So defining that, kind of like we did today, talking about it, talking about what is the media in America, in the world, in society, and why is this information media literacy important? Why is it important for everyone? And also that vocabulary. We'll talk about that in just a second, kind of getting more familiar with the vocabulary of information and media literacy. We'll mention a source in just a second that will help with that. Then from there, those more hands-on lessons and activities. Those are the ones that will challenge students to critically evaluate print and digital information sources. So I say we'll take a look at a couple of those in depth. We'll open up the websites for those, and you can see if it's a new resource for you, what they have to offer for sure. And as I mentioned a little earlier, a lot out there for. And also that final, kind of depending on your classroom. I know in my GED classroom, that third box, so to speak, is one that I use quite a bit. Kind of taking it that next level as a way of preparing students for the GED or other high school equivalency exams. That idea of, looking at arguments, evaluating the evidence, determining strengths and weaknesses, and again, all of those things that will help for sure on in that GED type of outcome for students. So it will support them when they write that GED essay or other reading related questions that are related to arguments and evaluation of evidence. So for our time today, I'm going to highlight a few resources that I've used in my classrooms, or ones that I haven't maybe used myself, but ones that are out there for sure that can be leveled for other ABE, ESL rooms. I'm also providing general website links for all of these resources, and they'll also be on this resource guide that you'll receive later. For most of them, once you get to the site, it's as simple as using search terms such as fake news, information literacy, media literacy, and you'll be directed to related materials and activities for sure. We're going to talk about these just for a few minutes, but then we're going to look at a few together. The ones that you're seeing here are more of those kind of big picture type of topic resources that you may want to consider using at the beginning of your discussion about information literacy. So for example, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, students need to be acquainted with that language of information and media literacy, meaning that instead of just saying something is, fake or good or bad or even strong versus weak, getting students, providing students with that vocabulary where they can further explain certain sources. Are they credible? Are they valid? Are they invalid? Are they reliable? Many of the information literacy activities count on these words as ones to be used when judging the validity of some type of information. Nearpod is excellent for those that I'm sure know of this source, or if not, great for online classes, and they have a lot of those interactive lessons that can be used, especially related to evaluating evidence. On the right-hand side, I mentioned one from a source called SERP. This may or may not be familiar. I've used it for many years. It has a variety of articles on many topics, reading, a chance to write. It also has some math and science connections with whatever topic is out there. But there is one specific one that I seem to use almost every year with new classes, and it's one that is kind of sets the stage. Is news, is it information or is it entertainment? It really gets students starting to think about, what is the role of media in society? And yeah, there's a good reading that goes with it, and then, as I say, they have a chance themselves to give their opinion on that specific question. And finally, that ELLII site, many of us know that as ESL Library. And ESL Library is a site, though, that you do have to pay a nominal fee. I just checked, it's now $14 a month, but definitely worth every penny just for general classroom activities. But for information or media literacy type of activities, many are on this site as well. They have a specific lesson on just called fake news, and or one on just fact versus opinion. And yeah, ELII or ESL Library, for those that do know this one, excellent for the ESL classroom, but also can be used in the GED classroom. I have used many. I use that fake news and the fact versus opinion one specifically in my GED classroom because it's good. It provides vocabulary, it provides a reading, and then it connects that with some writing skills, grammar type activities, and listening. There's that listening component as well for students to hear the story and practice those skills. The one we're going to pull up here and review together is from iCivics. And iCivics, you're thinking, civics, and those that know this site, it is the go-to site for anything that is government related for sure. But they have excellent literacy sections. And let's pull that up just for a second, and so you can see what they have to offer. So iCivics, totally free. You just have to create an account and They have upgraded greatly their site to include many more resources in their very extensive library. And as I scroll through, you'll see definitely those curriculum units geared toward the government and government systems. But as we get to the end, there are two, and these are relatively new. Yeah, they are continuously adding new lessons, and yeah, these two. Let me just click on this one just to give you an idea of what is there. So in terms of adaptability to basically it's kind of middle school level and high school level types of lessons depending on your classroom. But again, these lessons are so extensive that you can pull out parts or graphic organizers or one little small reading and definitely adapt it to all classrooms for sure. And yeah, take a look at just some of the topics. iCivics not only has lesson plans, but they also have, as you see here, educational games as well. If you have that chance for students to get onto computers or laptops or Chromebooks or whatever it might be, and yeah, these are good. Fine. That viral deception, false reporting in that gamified, so to speak, sort of way. But again, on the lesson side of things, you see some of the other much more deeper topics on those areas that you can use in your classroom. Got social media posts, who's paying for the content, and so on. Moving from kind of those big picture, and iCivics kind of moves us to that, yeah, again, based on the many resources that are there. Definitely take a look at that when you can. Moving on from that, though, to some of those more specific type of resources and lessons that you can incorporate and use. This is one I just found within the last couple of weeks from Common Lit. I know many of us go to Common Lit for just that, the literature resources, either fiction or nonfiction. But I noted, and after finding this specific article, that they are definitely have more on, misinformation and spreading of fake news and that type of thing. So this one for sure, how search engines spread misinformation. I just gave this to my students last week and got some positive feedback from that. And Common Lit's always good, not because of the only for the topic, but also, yeah, those text dependent questions, those discussion questions at the end of each lesson. Those are always good practice for that GEDRLA test if necessary. Museum used to be right across the river here in Washington, D.C., from where I'm at. Used to be a physical museum, and that closed, unfortunately. It was a good museum, and maybe today it would have stayed open because of the much importance of this topic. But they still have a excellent website. Yeah, that is up to date. Yeah, it's not like the website from when the museum was open. And yeah, definitely check that out. Again, yeah, free Common Lit, free museum, free website. Just have to create that account. And yeah, a lot of lessons about how to determine reliable facts and other related topics. The two on the right-hand side move us away from text. And not all of our information and or misinformation is in text. It is coming to us from orally as well or visually, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. These two sites definitely help students develop those listening skills. I just found the Stossel in the Classroom one this year and love it. Again, it's free. And what it is these very up-to-date topics that challenge students to think about evidence and truthfulness when two sides basically debate on the same topic, and these are done in like short videos. So yeah, there's a short video on recycling, recycling good, and then there's a short video that someone says recycling waste of time, and students watch these, and then there are questions that go with them, and would definitely recommend everyone looking at that one too. Same with ListenWise. Yeah, ListenWise gives access to those either podcasts or activities, readings that are presented in or orally presented. And ListenWise, I think now you do have to pay for that, unfortunately. There's a free trial I noticed, but it just reminds us though to find resources out there that help students with those listening skills and or watching, kind of those watching, so to speak, skills as well to help with, yeah, to help or do the same that they are doing with the written text as well. One other one we're going to look at is this one from Civic Online Reasoning. And as I've mentioned here, this is the gold mine of information literacy resources. Let's take a look. I'm going to pull this one up and have you take a look at it here. Yeah, so Civic Online Reasoning is part of a website from a source called the Digital Inquiry Group. Some of you may know it as the Stanford History Education Group that was started years ago. They kind of kept up with times, changed their name now to the Digital Inquiry Group, where you'll find those history assessments. But within the last couple of years, they have developed this civic online reasoning curriculum. And it is extensive, and definitely would highly recommend everyone to take a look at this on your own time. And I have a feeling that you'll find something in here. It's, as I say, a very extensive curriculum. I don't use this from start to finish, but I look around and have always found something in here that I can use in my classroom. And again, these lessons and assessments that they have can be used in a variety of classrooms for sure. So what they've done is, and you can kind of see here, they've color coded their curriculum. So basically, the green is answering the big question of who's behind the information. The red is what's the evidence, and then what do other sources say about a particular topic. So let me just scroll through for just a few minutes and you'll get just a sense of what is offered here on this site. You'll see definitely, yeah, definitely that idea of news versus opinions. That one is a good starting point for us to use in our classroom. And as you can kind of see here, too, that there are teacher materials that you can access, plus slides. Let me just open those up, and so you can just get a sense of the lesson plans that are on this site. Very detailed, and ones that kind of combine in some of the other aspects of their curriculum into it. So yeah, and they're not terribly extensive, they're just enough. And again, go along with various slides and can be adaptable to your specific classroom for sure. As we move from the green into the red, the red, more about that evaluating evidence. So giving students those super important tools to evaluate evidence. And I've used this one many times. Let me just see if I can find it for a second here. The Facebook argument. So as I mentioned on this site, there are lessons like we just saw. So extensive lesson plans with slides and activities attached to them. Or they also have these things called assessments. And the assessments are, until it comes up, something short and to the point, and are excellent for either warm-ups to a particular discussion that you're having that day, or excellent for exit tickets as well after you've talked about something in the information literacy world. So yeah, take a look at this one. This is kind of an interesting one. It's a little hard to see at this moment, but what it is a Facebook post at the top. And again, yeah, this is you can go to that particular post versus then a chart here, and it's ironically from Minnesota, some type of chart of Minnesota gun owners. So just to give you an idea, though, it's just one page, and these assessments are mostly 1 or 2 pages, similar to this, and with just the question. So yeah, did this person or this person provide the stronger evidence, and explain why? And as I mentioned, yeah, good for this may be a totally new topic for you and students, and a good way to start is just see what they think. Or if you've had a more extensive conversation about some aspect of media literacy, a good way to end and assess. And finally, the red, oops, let's see, let's pop back to that. Let's do that. There we are. The red then are those or I'm sorry, the red, green was, yeah, the green was information literacy itself, the evaluating of the evidence, and then so much on the site. There we are. The yellow, there we are. The yellow then. The yellow, what's really big on this site, or their emphasis, I should say, on this site, is this idea of lateral reading, meaning that looking at one source and then stepping away from it, and then looking at another source and seeing what it says. So yeah, the yellow lessons and assessment help students navigate this as well. So yeah, some of this, it's some of it you print off too. This is not all done on a computer. So you can print off the resources. A lot of them are Google Docs that you can copy and do with as you may. So yeah, definitely check this one out and see what is helpful. And just a final kind of scroll through, a lot more, some charts, some posters that you can use in your room, types of evidence, there's some professional development, further professional development on information literacy offered by them, and much more. All right. So we talked a lot about text and information literacy, but take a look at this and take a look at that kind of scary quote up in the corner from Upfront magazine. That day will come when nothing that we see on the internet can be believed, and of course, in textual form for sure, but then also in visual form as well. And it is so important to remind our students that fake news, deliberate information can come in many forms, especially visually. And yeah, take a look at that photo there from an article about visual fake news. And fortunately, there are, again, many sites. There are a couple I just wanted to highlight or just mention today. We won't go to the site just based on our time, but this Facing History and Ourselves is an excellent kind of starting point. They have some good classroom strategies on how to analyze visuals in your respective classrooms. But they also have this good lesson on the power of images in media. And, so again, just kind of building toward those more specific information literacy lessons, but just, yeah, that, the use of pictures and why and how, and can pictures be biased? And so, yeah, they answer many of those questions in that lesson. Upfront Magazine, I got a few shout outs for Upfront Magazine. I was introduced to this in a session similar to this years and years ago, and fortunately have been in programs where we're able to get Upfront Magazine. It is a paid subscription, but again, kind of like ESL Library, worth every penny. And Upfront Magazine really stays up with the times, so to speak, and many of their stories and activities have to do with just that visual analysis of lessons, articles, graphic organizers, all related to fake news and photos. There was just one out, I think, this year. On the cover, it said, "Is anything real anymore?" And of course, that's where I got that picture from that we just saw a minute ago. And yeah, that's an excellent article. And students really, yeah, I mean, yeah, students are really into that. They are savvy with social media and and all the information and the data out there, and those students or those articles really do resonate well with students. And the resources that Upfront has covers a lot of different skill areas, ranging from the reading skills to the writing skills to many others that students need and can use. AI, artificial intelligence. We all know we can't leave that out. It's the new reality, so to speak. And AI in the classroom, whole different presentation for sure. But we'd be remiss today if we didn't mention AI specifically. On the positive side, we can use those AI tools to create differentiated texts, and those same tools can be used to help struggling learners. But as we all know, AI can also add to the prevalence of fake news and deliberate misinformation in both print and digital media sources. So there is what I recommend, and I'm doing this myself. Common sense education has some excellent leveled AI literacy lessons to incorporate into your planning and delivery. And there's one kind of lesson number one is, what is AI? And I think I'm going to use that for sure. I haven't used it yet with my students, but when we're talking information literacy and all of its components, I will definitely use that for sure. And that same common sense, they have some articles in there, some blog posts, that type of thing. And one article reminds us that not just to use AI in the classroom, but rather make its application part of our information and literacy curriculum. Along with all these resources, though, and lessons, we can remind students and ourselves that spotting fake news, it's as easy as one, two, three, four. That idea of being skeptical, verifying, looking for other clues, getting help. And yeah, these posters. Actually, I think speaking of Upfront Magazine, I think I got one from Upfront Magazine once that I have put in every classroom, including my current one, and I do refer to it quite often. And it has similar reminders when we are doing or reading something in the class. Plenty out there. There's so much out there. There is plenty of advocacy sites. This Media Literacy Now, I would recommend going to for sure. It is, yeah, there are so many. It has an extensive resource collection on so many aspects of information literacy. So definitely check that out, along with that Atlas resource library. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the resources that we've reviewed quickly today are on that site, and you can look at them and evaluate them, assess them for your own use. Before we go, I want to make sure too that you take a look at, please, this lesson plan that I put together for today's presentation, and please use it, adapt it for your classroom. I wrote it in, just with kind of that ABE, pre-GED, GED level in mind, advanced ESL. Kind of wrote it at that level, but definitely you can, yeah, you can do, yeah, do with as you wish. And yeah, just quick look at the objectives. Yeah, again, doing that real and fake news headlines. types of evidence, critiquing evidence is strong or weak, categorizing definitions, differentiating evidence in articles, comparing credible sources and non-credible sources on a research topic. Yeah, I had fun putting this together. And yeah, this one will be on the resource sheet for sure. I just want to bring this up here. So most of the activities are on one activity sheet. I'll just scroll through it very quickly. Again, identifying evidence in an article, using the carbs test. I know many of us know about the carbs test and have used the carbs test as a way to evaluate evidence as strong or weak, with some quick activity attached to that. And then a final activity related to a couple news stories. Are they credible? Are they trustworthy? And students can then, basically read while evaluating and making that determination. There's a couple assessments at the end. I do have students, or want to have students, maybe look at a research topic, finding one credible source, one non-credible one, or thinking about times they've searched on the internet and what have they found? Have they been misled? And also connecting it, if necessary, to pre-GED or GED classroom with those type of related test questions. And in my additional notes down there, that reminder that this can definitely be modified. Also, too, making students aware of those fact-checking websites. Those are, just kind of fun ways in the classroom sometimes to bring those up, and making sure students know about there are these sites out there that if they hear something, they can go to the site and it can be checked. And as Marissa mentioned, this will be in the participant folder for sure. All right, everyone. Our time has gone by very quickly, and I don't think we have any time today for any type of breakout rooms. But as we all know, as ABE professionals, the best resource of all is each other. And I learn from all of you for sure. And maybe we can take, I think we have about a few minutes left here, that if we want to chat out anything, that, perhaps any type of successes and or challenges you've had with this topic of information and media resource or literacy, or any of the resources in your classroom, or any other resources about. It's like, hey, I've used this resource and see it today, and I want to make everyone aware of it. Please feel free to chat that out too, or you can unmute as well. And hopefully, and yeah, looks like, and yeah, just try to use. And again, a few I I took this from someone else's presentation and always put it in my own presentation, is that we don't have to use 100 different resources in the classroom. Choose a few, look through them. That's kind of the fun part, looking through them, seeing what's out there, but then choosing a few that oh, good. Structured controversies. Yeah, thank you, Pete. Structured. Some of the, I think C-SPAN has some of those structured controversies. Yeah, and there's another site as well that's not coming to me that has, maybe it's that the Stanford history one. That's that digital inquiry group that has some excellent structured controversies. Again, two sides, two sides. Anything we can do to incorporate two sides into something or into our discussion, and having our students evaluate them, which also turns, we really didn't touch on this too much today, having students evaluate, having students listen, but then also having students speaking to each other. And again, kind of didn't talk too much about that, but especially when sensitive topics are involved, and having students practicing those skills of dialogue and respectfully having a respectful conversation with each other, and language to agree and disagree, all important, and all can be tied in with information and literacy curriculum. Very good. Thank you for chatting some of those other thoughts out, and I'll definitely take a closer look at those myself. So, kind of final thoughts in our final minutes of all of our obligation. We all have an obligation. Our students, to establish the accuracy of a piece of information before passing it along. It's so easy, as we all know in today's world, to look at something, pass it along, and that passing along maybe to one person or maybe to 100 people. So this is where that accuracy, verifying, is so important. And just kind of, a final mental checklist that we can all use, that whether we're reading something or listening to something, all of us should consider, what do I know? What do I know about this? What do I need to know? That sometimes I forget that part. How do I know what I am seeing is real, or in that case true, valid, invalid, all of those terms. And like we talked about with that online reasoning website, that idea of, is there another way of looking at this? It's not, I see one thing in front of me, I have the topic right there, and what do other sources say about that topic? An excellent way for us and for our students to assess credibility and validity of sources. And as kind of a final checklist, let me just click on this here in our last few minutes. This one definitely, as I mentioned, there is this National Association for Media Literacy Education. Very helpful website. It has some resources on it, but more just kind of background, importance, this type of thing. A very detailed checklist that remind us of all of those different points when evaluating some type of source. Who's writing it? What is the message and meaning? And doing that evaluation, is there bias? Is there not bias? So this one, really gets into a lot of good questions that we can all ask when looking at a source. All right, everyone. I think we have come to, looking at my watch here, I think we have 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left, but time for any final questions or comments. And let me just open this up. This will be in the participant folder. But I've put together the resources that we talked about there, plus a few other ones that weren't mentioned specifically today, but ones that I've used, ones that definitely are useful for any type of information or media literacy type of discussion in the classroom. And and that lesson plan will be in the resource folder as well.
John, there was a brief question in the chat before we close out. It's from Pete. It says, is there a reason you say deliberate misinformation rather than disinformation?
Good. And both, I think, are good. I think, Pete, it's always that kind of, there's misinformation now, and why I kind of use that misinformation versus delivered or disinformation is that mistakes. I'm noticing so many more just mistakes in newspapers and that is just, it's misinformation by mistake, versus then someone deliberately doing that. So that is kind of where I make that distinction as well. But just those mistakes. It's like, wow, that there was a mistake. Just as kind of a funny note, I didn't know Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in 1965. I just saw something a few days ago with that 19, and it said all through this article 1965. So that's new history news for me. Yeah. And going good, yeah. Luella, good question about managing conversations. Yeah, again, yeah, all about kind of teaching and kind of our final seconds here, all about teaching that language of, of agreeing and disagreeing first, yeah, that. And that ESL library, if you have a chance to do that, has an excellent just that on they have a whole group of lessons that are basically debates, and each lesson has as part of their part of the lesson, sentence stems, word stems that you can use in dialogue, in conversations to help with that, to help with conversations not getting out of hand. And please, yeah, if you have any other questions, comments, I am more than happy to respond. Respond. My email is there down at the bottom, and I appreciate your attendance today, as always, and all of your good thoughts and comments. And it's a fun area of literacy, fun area and necessary area as well. And yeah, please reach out at any time, and we will all vow to be good stewards of information as it comes at us from all different areas. All
All
right.
right.
Thank you
Very
so much, John.
thank you, Marissa. Thank you, Wendy, Marissa as well for your help today with this, and I'll say goodbye from a rainy Washington D.C. The cherry blossoms are gone, and it's about 45 degrees and rainy today. So I'm glad I could spend this time inside with all of you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you.